Max and Ruby was originally pitched to MTV with a plot much more dissimilar to the product we have now. The early name of the series was Shiny Ruby, and it followed the character of the same name hiding the corpse of her nonverbal autistic brother in her home, before eventually snapping and revealing her true colors. All that was made for the series was a 5 minute pitch by the name of Ekha, translated to one in Hebrew. It was meant to show how the events of this series begin. I know this because I was a test viewer for it, and I was tasked with giving my opinion on the idea alongside with a group of other people. The projector turned on and the video started. The first thing I saw were the lines of the contact given the show's title, runtime, and test screening numbers, and the production code. A beep was heard once the slide disappeared from the screen. A setting of a house made entirely out of clay and wooden metal faded into view with the camera slowly floating around it. The background music consisted of a weird avant-garde sounds coming from the groups of women. The sounds continued as the view faded into the house. The other parts of it finally stopped once it reached a certain room where Max was sitting at the desk. He was playing with a train set, a desk lamp illuminating his space. He rolled them down the tracks, hit another train, pushed them out of the bounds, and so forth. Suddenly, a clank caused Max to snap out of his fun time and look down to the floor. Cut his wind-up lobster toy, pushed up against his instep. He sighed and stood up before bringing the lobster over to where the toy chest at. Before he puts it away, he simply sat and stared for a moment, turning the lobster on its sides to inspect it. Another moment of Max playing with his train set ensured before the lobster crawled out of its confinement and bumped into his foot again. Max annoyed to look down, about to take a lobster back to where he put it, but a jump scare frame of a lobster with bulgy fish eyes appears for a split second, causing Max to yelp before jumping back in his chair, almost falling. A short gif began with a shot of Max looking at the lobster, then switching to the lobster looking at Max, and so on. After about a half of a minute, the scene switches increasing in speed. It stopped when the lobster turned around on its own and left the room. Max left his chair and followed along. Scene changed from Max walking through the hall upstairs to him making his way down to where the attic was. Downstairs where the staircase storage was stood Max, next to his lobster toy, repeatedly bumping into the small wooden door before slowing down to the halt. Max confused and assumed that this toy was trying to make him open the door, prompting him to turn the knob. Inside was a small toy stern against the short walls with a dusty wooden floor, along with a single cardboard box. Max stepped in and coughed from the dust bunnies, waving his hand around and shooed them off. Before looking down on the box, The lobster toy sat behind him as he sweated from the forehead. As he was sweated from the forehead, slightly worried about the outcome. Exhaling, he anxiously opened the box. A shot from the inside of a box showing Max open its top showed up. After a few seconds of Max squinting and supposedly reading something he saw inside, his confused face slowly transformed into a traumatized, ghastly expression with sounds of heartbeat pounding like a drum. Max fumbled around the bottom of the box, with sounds of flippering paper hinting to what he had found. The voice of Ruby echoed in Max's head. They start off with the simple scolds, and then they turn into something rants. Soon enough, Ruby's speech wasn't even intelligible anymore. Choked with both of her splatters, finally Max spoke, saying the only two words he had ever spoken throughout the plot. Ruby, doctor. Max had a trouble breathing, and the voice grew louder. He turned to his lobster and found that it didn't have a fish eyes anymore. Its face was melting, mouth and eyes dripping from clamps of dark. Max bawled and cried, making his way over to the stairs, knocking over his lobster toy in the process. He rushed up the stairs as quickly he could, but due to the lack of focus of how scared he was, he ended up slipping and falling. He tumbled down the steps, a few cracks heard from each thump before inevitably landing on his head. His lobster toy exploded into small pieces across the hardwood floor. The voice of Ruby and a heartbeat sound slowed down to the stop, leaving Max unconscious, body to the ground. The final shot was Max, stiff carcass lasted for a good chunks for a second. Before the episode faded to black and the credits slide comes on. The overall views were mixed. The half of us liking the idea, while the other half thought it didn't make sense. Nevertheless, it was eventually scrapped. For what I've heard, they rejected the series because it didn't have enough humor, as MTV was pretty much well known for the dark jokes. And not just dark shows overall. Only one person from the text screening that I kept contact with brought a few cats and sent them back to me via email. But other than that, I don't have anything else from the plot. As he was as he was told the plot was for internal usage. Kinda suck, but we could have gotten a pretty interesting show that they let us outcome fly in. But hey, it's corporate decisions for you.